Hey everyone, welcome back to RDLP. I'm Solon. This is Hakuoki, Demon of the Fleeting Blossom. And when we last left off, everyone was all up on they wanted my blood. So now, I'm not sure where that leaves us, except we still have all of our blood on the inside of us, which is good. Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. I think we just started chapter 4. And I think that means that we've officially broken off. There's a quick flash of Soji before the start of it, and so I think that's my tip-off that we have now branched off into a completely different storyline. Which is funny, because as the game has so far stuck tightly to this historical, basically historical like pinpoints on a big map of history. They're like, alright, the story hits this point, it hits this point, this leader's assassinated, and it goes on, but then it kind of like branches out off of those points and makes its own stories around those things, and those are kind of like those are the events that lead everything together. I'm assuming we can extend that, and that there'll be a couple more specific spots. Political things happen in the background that end up framing our entire relevance of the entire game, so that'll be cool. And although I'll have no idea when or how it happens, but it'll be there, and it'll always be there. So, the shogunate has been abolished. Whoops. Kind of our entire government structure, so that's a revolution, but it's a revolution for the days of yore. It is a conservative revolution, and now Yoshinobu Tokugawa has left for Osaka. The shogunate military followed, gathering most of their strength in Osaka, which means we're right out. Like, the Shinsengumi is like, I don't know where we'll go if the military is gone. It was unclear how things would turn out. To see the fate of the country required more information and insight that we possessed. What we did know, however, was that the Satsuma had grown more and more violent and needed to be stopped. They needed to. Believing that they were acting for the good of the country, the Shinsengumi set about trying to take back the imperial court from the Satsuma and the Choshu, and put Lord Yoshinobu back in power. Very interesting. January 16th. It has definitely been over a year since we've been here. The Shinsengumi, along with men from several other domains, were assigned to guard the Fushimi Magistrate's office. Oh, so we're still employed. That's cool. Most of the night patrols were done by the Fury Corps, which included Sanan, Heisuke, and Okita. There was an ellipses before Okita, as if he's somehow different from the other two, and I think that's a good sign. Hey, don't worry so much, Chizuru. They don't have very many men. We'll be fine. I must have looked pensive because he smiled at me. The shogunate commands overwhelming manpower. The Satsuma and Choshu will recognize that soon enough. His voice sounded confident, but his face looked pale. As it does. All true, but all their men have Western weapons, Western tactics. That could be trouble. Sanan only smiled. We needn't worry about that either. How dangerous could foreign weapons be? When he spoke again, his voice was just above a murmur. I don't know, how dangerous could they be? That's not a tip-off. Besides, the shogunate army commands furies. He turned and walked away, back into the building. Didn't the water of life come from the west in the first place? Magic is everywhere! Them Transylvanians. Seeing Sanan act that way always made me nervous. I had begun to worry that the bloodlust was driving him mad. I'm gonna go check out Sanan. I don't like letting him out of my sight. Thank you. I nodded and Heisuke jogged off after Sanan. Seems everything's okay with him. Okita, are you alright? Does it hurt anywhere? You feel sick? I'm gonna just mother the crap out of him since he obviously can't take care of himself. Or do I want blood? He'd seen through my plot so easily. Didn't seem to matter to him, though, as he continued as if nothing had happened. No, I haven't felt any of that, at least not yet. Okay. That was reassuring to hear, although both of us felt the weight of that yet. I can't speak for Sinan, but Heisuke's been alright so far too. I fell silent, unsure of what he meant. Was he trying to reassure me, or was he trying to remind me that they were only doing fine thus far? What's wrong? You still blaming yourself? Yeah. If I weren't here, you wouldn't have this problem. And, well, actually, no, you would. You would, wouldn't you? If I wasn't here, you'd still have tuberculosis. And then probably goad yourself into doing this anyways. Not that I should blame you either. I mean, it's just a sick, sucky situation all around. But me being here and then having the demons follow me here was not actually a part of the decision making in the end. Although, what's his butt douchey demon brother was the person who gave him the water of life. That was a catalyst, but a catalyst that quickened the reaction, not made it so that it wouldn't have happened otherwise. It's not our problem. Yeah, it's true, things got a little complicated, but I was the one who decided to drink the water of life. It was me. I chose my path. What happened isn't your fault. And I didn't do it for you. Right. His tone brooked no dissent. I could only nod. Nonetheless, the heaviness in my heart refused to lift. Chizuru, please, you don't have to baby him. Looks like you're getting better at least. That's good, right? He paused for a moment, looked away with exaggerated nonchalance. Actually, I feel great. Better than ever, in fact. I nodded. The cough that had grown progressively worse for the last several months was completely gone. I was definitely glad he was better. I'm pretty happy my tuberculosis is gone. I'd say that's pretty high on my list on things to be happy about. I've been meaning to ask you, though. Why are you going on night rounds with us? It's because I was worried about Okia, but I could hardly tell him. We're fighting the Satsuma this time, you know? Uh-huh. Those demons who are after you are out there, and they aren't just screwing around, they're serious business. That's why I'm here. I know that. I can't just sit around. I didn't tell you to sit around. He suddenly looked irritated. I'm just saying a kid like you should be sleeping right now. Why don't you work during the day with Hijikata and Saito and the rest of them? 'Cause I'm not kind of in love with them, so fuck you. Nighttime was when I felt the worst about standing by and doing nothing, but I didn't think Okita would understand that. Perhaps I was only in the way when I went out with the Fury Corps. This battle's gonna be a long, hard one. Sinan thinks we can wrap it up quickly, but he's wrong. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving me alone. I wasn't even sure of myself why I was so determined, but I did know that I was worried for Okita. Fretting about it would do me no good. I balled my hands in my fists, tried to clear my mind. I just need to do my best. If I could make myself useful, then there was no reason I couldn't keep working on the night patrols. There we go. We will force them to make us stay. January 18th. 2 days after the Shinsengumi had been assigned to guard the magistrate office, I found myself woken suddenly from a nap. I wonder if that date itself is important. Otherwise, we could have just woken up from a nap. Or, like, it could be the next day. January 18th, though. I didn't know why at first, only that the atmosphere in our compound was especially tense. Something had happened. First Division, Second Division, move out! Move it! You're headed for the main road! Rumble of marching echoed across the courtyard as Nagakura and his men departed. What happened? I made my way through the crowd that had gathered until I found myself at the center. There before me. Kondo? Oh no, Kondo, what happened? He recognized me and managed a faint smile before sagging back down. Kondo, no! He was shot in the shoulder. Kondo, can you move your arm? The other man shook his head slowly. I couldn't see the wound, but there was no mistaking that it was a serious one. Blood had soaked his sleeve, and was still dripping steadily to the ground beneath him. Chief Kondo, we have a room prepared. Kondo nodded weakly, and leaned heavily on Yamazaki as he led the chief off. It looked as if he could barely walk. Shimada, what happened? Shimada nodded, although I could see his hands shake. He was attacked on the way back from Nijo Castle. They came out of nowhere. His jaw tightened. Bastards just about shot him off his horse. If he'd fallen off, I don't know if we'd have been able to. Anyway, they had us surrounded by the time we figured out what was going on. We broke through, but it was a tough fight. If they'd aimed for the horse, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. Hijikata's jaw was set, but his voice was calm. As bad as things were, he and Shimada both knew they could have been much, much worse. No honor in shooting horses. Lucky for us, they're idiots. What's going on? He was wearing a scowl and clothes that looked as if they'd just been thrown on or slept in, or both. Shouldn't you be sleeping? He just laughed. With all this noise, not even I sleep that deep. Actually, I could ask you the same question. You're on the night shift just like me. What are you doing up? Oh, well, touché. I was up because I was curious about what the commotion was, just like Okita, but I wasn't a fury. The sunlight didn't bother me. Heyo. There was no way I could say that now, though. Plenty of the rank-and-file soldiers were nearby. They had no idea the furies even existed. So, what happened? They had no idea that I'm dating a demon. Apparently satisfied with my silence as an answer, Okita had turned back to Hijikata. Kondo was shot. What? His eyes went wide. And is it serious? It didn't just graze him, if that's what you mean. Thought for a moment that Okita was going to grab Hijikata and shake him. I'd never seen the man so agitated before. Oh, Kondo and Okita are like best friends. They are really, really tight. Calm down, Soji. I am calm. But he stepped back and took a deep breath. As soon as he was told what had happened, however, his temper roared back up. You only sent 3 men with him? What are you, insane? You know how dangerous it is for him to... how dangerous it is out there for him right now? He was practically snarling at Hijikata by the time he finished. Kondo is going to Nijo Castle for the war conference, as the chief of the Shinsengumi. Some of the other people there were shogunate bigwigs. He couldn't show up with a bunch of guards. Some of the men high up in the government aren't real fond of the Shinsengumi. Okita's jaw shifted. And they might have gotten the wrong idea, is that what you're saying? Whether they reviled or loved him, no man could contest the bravery of the Shinsengumi. But if their chief were to be seen with scores of guards, then there were some who would take that as license to say that Kondo and the Shinsengumi were cowards. So they're just macho flexing. But still, Kondo really should have been safe. So it's more important for us to look good than for Kondo to not get fucking shot? There's almost a deadly edge to his voice. He's pissed? I didn't say that. Inoue and Shimada stepped in between Okita and their commander, their hands raised placatingly. Just like, these kids. Soji, this isn't Hijikata's fault. Kondo only wanted to take us for his escort. So if you wanna blame someone, we're it. It was our job to protect the chief, and we failed. Okita didn't take his furious glare off of Hijikata. It's hard to protect someone from a gunshot, Shimada. Not your fault. Hijikata put Kondo's life in danger when he let him go out with only 3 men. Besides, I'm finding it a little hard to believe that was really what Kondo wanted to do. Maybe someone talked him into it. Maybe someone who is always trying to look good. Someone like Hijikata. Soji. Kondo. He sighed. Didn't want to risk leaving the magistrate's office undefended just to cover his own tail. This place represented Yoshinobu's authority in Kyoto. He didn't want to take any chances with it. I let him do it. That was my mistake. The edge in his voice suggests that Hijikata wanted very much to assign many more men to Kondo's escort, but had been overruled. If he dies, it's your ass in the fire, Hijikata. The commander said nothing. Y'all bickering and fighting, it doesn't mean nothing. Nagakura's men returned just as the sun was setting. They'd gone off to investigate the scene of the attack, but hadn't been able to find any leads on the culprits. Still, they'd managed to recover the corpse from the Shinsengumi men who died in the attack, so they joked it had been a worthwhile trip. That is morbid. Kondo's condition worsened. He'd been conscious, albeit barely, when he'd arrived, but he quickly developed a fever and passed into fitful sleep. "Kondo's got the worst luck, huh?" said the guy who just earlier had tuberculosis. But a couple months ago. He grinned the furious man from earlier, someone else entirely. "Well, I've heard it's really hard to hit someone with a gun." "Yeah, you can't hit shit from more than a couple yards away." The grin was still there, and I wasn't quite sure how to respond to it. Could he really just laugh off something that had obviously had such a pronounced effect on him? "Oh yeah, I gotta go talk to Heisuke about something. Think you could just wait here?" "Of course." "Thanks, Chizuru. I'm leaving you in charge here, alright?" "I'm in charge." I sighed as I watched him head off toward the back of the compound.